Lena Hartwell lived a quiet life in a small Oregon town, spending most of her days running the bakery she inherited from her parents. After years of loneliness, she searched for connection wherever she could find it. One evening, while browsing online, she discovered a group dedicated to writing letters to inmates. The idea felt unusual, but something inside her wanted to try. That single choice led her to Damon Ridge, a prisoner serving time for armed robbery. His first letters seemed gentle and humble, filled with apologies for the mistakes he claimed he wanted to leave behind. Lena felt touched by his regret and believed she had found a soul who simply needed understanding. Their letters continued for months, slowly turning into a routine she looked forward to. She visited him, brought him books, and convinced herself that she could help him rebuild his life. Over 2 years, her attachment to Damon deepened. She ignored warnings from friends and pushed aside every uneasy thought. She saw him as someone trying to change, someone who appreciated her in a way no one else had. When Damon was released early for good behavior, Lena waited for him outside the prison gates with hope in her heart. She believed she was witnessing a new beginning. Damon stayed with her, and at first, everything looked peaceful. He kept to himself, stayed out of trouble, and never argued with her. His silence felt more like caution than danger, and she interpreted it as a sign of trauma from years behind bars. Within months, Lena felt confident enough to plan a small wedding. She told everyone that this was proof that love could transform a person. The wedding was simple and sweet, held in a rented barn decorated with lights and wildflowers. Lena looked genuinely happy, glowing with excitement for the future she believed she had earned through patience and kindness. Damon appeared calm but distant, a detail most people at the ceremony dismissed as nerves. After the reception, they left quietly, heading home to start their new life together. That was the last time anyone saw Lena alive. The next morning, she didn't open her bakery. Calls went unanswered, and concern grew quickly among those who knew her. By afternoon, police were searching her home. Inside, they found her purse untouched, her phone left on the bed, and her new wedding ring box sitting open. Damon and his belongings were gone. As detectives dug deeper, they discovered Damon had been planning something far darker than a marriage. Months of secret communication with another ex-inmate revealed his intention to use Lena for financial gain. A backpack found near a highway held her documents and evidence that Damon had studied escape routes long before the wedding. Authorities eventually caught him hiding in an abandoned cabin, where they also found items belonging to Lena. Search teams later discovered her body in a remote forest. Investigators confirmed she had been killed only hours after the ceremony. Damon was arrested, tried, and sentenced to life without parole, leaving Lena's tragic story as a warning about misplaced trust and the unseen dangers behind carefully constructed lies. In the days following Damon's arrest, the town struggled to process how someone as gentle as Lena could fall victim to such a calculated plan. Detectives continued digging through every detail of Damon's past, determined to understand how he managed to deceive her so thoroughly. What they uncovered painted an even darker picture than anyone expected. Long before Lena ever wrote her first letter, Damon had built a pattern of manipulating people for personal gain. Former acquaintances described him as someone who could reshape his personality to match the desires of whoever he targeted. He had a gift for sounding remorseful, a talent for appearing vulnerable, and a sharp instinct for identifying individuals who craved emotional connection. Lena, lonely and eager to help someone rebuild their life, had unknowingly become the perfect target. Investigators found evidence that Damon had chosen her deliberately. He had responded to multiple people online, sending each of them carefully crafted letters, but Lena was the only one who continued writing. When she began visiting him in prison, he studied her closely, learning what she wanted to hear. He mentioned childhood struggles, regrets over past crimes, and dreams of a peaceful future, all things that appealed to her caring nature. Prison staff later admitted that Damon often practiced different tones in his letters, rewriting them until they felt believable. To Lena, these details resembled honesty. To Damon, they were tools to shape a future escape plan. As officers examined Lena's home, they realized Damon had been preparing for weeks before the wedding. Hidden in a vent in the guest room were maps marked with potential routes leading out of the state. Receipts showed he had purchased small items in cash from convenience stores miles away, likely during times when Lena believed he was going for walks to clear his mind. Surveillance footage from a nearby gas station captured him alone at night, loading supplies into a duffel bag. Every move had been calculated, and every step had brought him closer to the moment he planned to vanish with Lena's assets. The investigation team also interviewed several strangers who recognized Damon from parole meetings and community programs. They described him as polite but detached, someone who never formed genuine bonds. A few even mentioned that he always watched people closely, as if assessing their weaknesses. This reinforced the growing conclusion that Lena hadn't married a man trying to rebuild his life. She had married a man perfecting his strategy for survival. Lena's friends suffered the deepest guilt. Many remembered moments when Lena shared small concerns about Damon's guarded behavior. She once mentioned that he avoided talking about his past despite claiming to be open. Another time, she said he disappeared for an hour during a grocery trip and returned with a strange restlessness. These tiny red flags were dismissed as normal adjustments after prison. Now, each moment replayed in their minds with painful clarity. Despite the emotional weight of the case, detectives persisted. They pieced together the timeline from the wedding night, hoping to uncover any detail that could bring justice or closure. Although Damon had already been caught, understanding his actions became essential to understanding what truly happened to Lena in the hours after she celebrated what she believed was the happiest day of her life. The timeline from the wedding night became the center of the investigation. Detectives reconstructed Lena's final hours with careful precision, gathering every scrap of information they could find. The reception ended just before midnight, and Lena left with Damon in her small white car. Witnesses noted nothing unusual. The couple walked out of the barn like any newly married pair. But once they reached the edge of town, the trail grew unclear. Cameras captured their car heading toward the forested outskirts, and after that, there were no more sightings. This sudden disappearance hinted that Damon had chosen a secluded route on purpose, avoiding familiar roads and staying away from streetlights. Every action reinforced the belief that he had been waiting for this exact moment, the moment when Lena trusted him completely and the world assumed she was safe. As detectives studied the area where the car was eventually found abandoned, they noticed subtle indications of a struggle. Broken branches, disturbed soil, and tire marks suggested that Lena might have tried to escape at some point. A torn piece of her wedding dress lay near a fallen tree, a detail that struck investigators with chilling heaviness. The dress she had worn with pride just hours earlier now served as a clue to her final attempt at survival. Experts brought in drones and tracking dogs as the search intensified. Every discovery added to the narrative of how quickly the night had turned tragic. Meanwhile, forensic analysts examined Damon's belongings from the abandoned cabin. Among the items recovered was a small notebook filled with cryptic notes. Some pages listed times and locations, others mentioned supplies, and one page contained a rough sketch of the forest area. The most disturbing detail was a line written near the back: "No turning back after the ceremony." Investigators realized this was not a last-minute breakdown or a burst of rage. It was a planned sequence, executed almost to perfection. Damon had waited for marriage because it gave him legal access to Lena's property and finances. The moment she signed the papers, his plan moved to its final stage. Lena's car underwent a detailed examination as well. Inside, technicians found fingerprints smeared across the passenger window, as though someone had tried to push it open. Dirt and leaves on the floorboard indicated the vehicle had been driven off-road shortly before being abandoned. Her phone, left behind at home, meant she had no way to call for help. Damon ensured she had no tools, no communication, and no witnesses. To him, the wedding night presented the easiest opportunity to carry out his long-prepared escape. As the search expanded, the community gathered in growing numbers to volunteer. People who barely knew Lena felt compelled to help. Her story spread quickly across news channels, painting a portrait of a kind woman who trusted too easily. The pressure placed on law enforcement intensified, but so did their determination. With every hour that passed, the focus sharpened on unraveling Damon's calculated path through the forest. When Lena's body was discovered in a remote wooded area days later, the truth settled like a crushing weight. She had been gone long before anyone knew she was missing. The forest revealed no signs of hesitation or remorse on Damon's part. It revealed only precision. And as investigators pieced together these final details, it became clear that Lena's fate had been sealed not on her wedding night, but the moment she allowed Damon into her life. The discovery of Lena's body shifted the investigation into its next critical phase. While the cause of death was determined quickly, investigators needed to understand the sequence leading from the wedding barn to the forest. Autopsy reports showed no signs of prolonged suffering, which suggested that Damon acted swiftly. This detail unsettled the police because it confirmed he had never intended to give her a chance to plead, resist, or escape fully. The act was not driven by panic. It was driven by cold preparation. The medical examiner also found traces of soil and pine needles on her shoes, matching a location miles from the abandoned car, proving Damon had moved her deeper into the woods before fleeing. This forced investigators to consider that he had chosen the site long before the wedding even took place. While forensic teams processed the forest scene, detectives continued studying Damon's notebook. The pages revealed a disturbing fixation on control. He made lists of actions and contingencies, preparing for scenarios even the police wouldn't have predicted. Some entries described how to interact with Lena's friends in ways that would make them trust him, while other notes outlined how to avoid leaving obvious trails. He wrote about gaining access to her accounts, selling the bakery, and disappearing across state lines within a week of the wedding. His attention to detail signaled that he had rehearsed the plan countless times in his mind, adjusting each part until it felt foolproof. Investigators realized they were dealing not just with a manipulator, but with someone capable of building a strategy around deception. As the investigation continued, the community held multiple vigils for Lena. Photos of her smiling outside her bakery filled local news screens, contrasting sharply with the grim details emerging from the investigation. People questioned how a woman known for being cautious and observant had fallen into such a dangerous trap. Friends recalled moments when Lena excitedly spoke about her future with Damon, her voice full of confidence that she had helped someone rebuild their life. These memories left many with a painful regret, wondering if they should have intervened more strongly when her relationship began to escalate. The entire town seemed suspended between mourning and disbelief.